Hi, this is Paul. Some of you are very used to seeing me online like this, and others of you are not. This is my first effort to introduce to the church and those who are on the church channel. This will only be on the church channel at this point, not on my personal channel, Living Stones Online. I did a video a couple of weeks ago where I announced to my online channel the start of two new ministries. I'll talk about the second one at the end of this ministry, but this is Living Stones Online. COVID has, at least for the foreseeable future, disrupted our patterns and rituals in the church. Even if they come up with a vaccine in November, it's not at all certain that life will get back to normal even at the beginning of 2021. With the state of California and the county opening and closing things, a lot of us have only been getting together online. And so part of what I've been doing with the church council and some other volunteers like Rick are trying to improve what we can do online. And in fact, because of the following of my personal YouTube channel, I am now in conversation with a number of people who live in the United States, Canada, Australia, Great Britain, and other places in the world that are looking for some sort of online ministry. Many of them are interested in Christianity. They might already be Christians, but they've had difficulty finding a church home that they could really connect with. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about online ministry, do a little orientation with that, but that's the group that Living Stones Online is for. Even before COVID, the internet has been disrupting our patterns. Many of us have listened to other preachers and other churches for decades now. Some of us have listened to other radio ministries and watched other ministries on television. And this has changed the pattern that Christians use to receive teaching. It used to be that you'd get all of your teaching from your local church or local pastor, but today people are sort of grazing and foraging far and wide for their church teaching. Living Stones Online will make more of our teaching available online, and especially in this time of COVID, I'm concerned that people don't have trustworthy sources. And so this is an attempt to give you a trustworthy source. Some of you get most of your needs met via the Sunday sermon. We haven't had Sunday school since COVID really came. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. Living Stones Online will explore the tools that the internet has to offer, and we'll probably find some of their limitations. Now, the first question I usually get from people is, can you church? Well, they don't really say it this way, but I will. Can you church online? And the answer to that is not really. The common Greek word used in the New Testament for church is assembly. And it simply means a congregation of people that get together in real life, person to person, face to face. And obviously, from the beginning of the time of the church, people have been getting together in this way. Jesus, in fact, makes a priority of people getting together. Where two or three are gathered, I am there in their midst, he promises them. So there's something important and powerful about Christians being present to one another, speaking with one another, and in many ways, Jesus' presence is promised to them when they get together. What does that mean when we can't get together? The truth is, books and screens, we've had books for a very long time, but books and screens are not doing church. However, churches have long accommodated the challenges that people face with respect to getting together. Some of those challenges people face have to do with time, not being able to find time to get together. Sometimes they have to do with distance, not being able to get together physically. The New Testament itself is a compilation of letters and books written by Christians, for, as the church calls, our edification, to build us up in the faith. And so it is simply not the case that we can't be built up in the faith without person-to-person contact. Now, many of those books and letters were sent between churches and were read within the church, but again, all the way from the time of the New Testament, people have been growing in their faith based on printed material, and I think the same is true now via the internet, through audio material and video material and also text material through the internet. It's also true that personal prayer has been common throughout the life of faith. Jesus himself went up on the mountain to pray all by himself and to commune with God. So it isn't the case that we don't grow at all individually without other Christians. Also, ministers and elders and Christians have visited the sick, visited the imprisoned, brought the Lord's Supper to them, given them words of encouragement. These things can happen over print, media, in other ways. And so while we're not really able to sort of do church in its fullness online, we can do a variety of ministries online. Churches have always used technology. Language and rhetoric are technology. Saint Augustine, one of the early saints of the church, was studied rhetoric. Pages and books are technology, and there's a tight relationship between the printing press and the Protestant Reformation. Many of you are familiar with the fact that in the 20th century, radio and television ministries were used in many places and often to good effect. The internet has been at least as disruptive as any of these other technologies, partly because it combines all of these different technologies in one. But in each case, the medium shapes the message, and so we ought to be sensitive to that. And so as we explore what we can do via the internet to build up the Church of Jesus Christ, we have to be careful and discerning about the ways that, in a sense, we get fooled by the images and by the easy way to communicate. I believe we should maintain a value that in-person communication is always preferential. But if it can't happen, we can use these tools to encourage one another and to build one another up. Now, we've actually been using these tools for quite a while. Early on, I would use Hangouts on the Air with a little computer set up in the front of the church. Some of you might remember that, so that at least sermons could be captured on YouTube for people to watch. A little bit later, Facebook came up with Facebook Live, and so for a number of years now, many of you have seen me set up a little camera and set up my cell phone on the front of church with some tripods, basically pointing it at the front of the church to try to capture the screen. So when people who were interested, sometimes my mother would watch online. She wants to see what her son is doing, see what his son's church is doing. My mother often feels at home in this place. Often if someone was sick and couldn't come to church for one reason or another, sometimes, like Janice, sometimes some of our membership move away and they struggle to find a new church, or they have a new church home and they want to supplement the teaching and the fellowship they get in their old church with what they're getting in their new church. And so Facebook Live and YouTube have been part of us keeping connected with each other. Part of what we've been doing, myself and Rick and Roger mostly, have been working on improving the stream. And if you look at this picture, you'll notice that here we've got the slide and then myself in a window. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been streaming live to our YouTube channel, and Rick has been controlling this, and we're continuing to work to try to get the bugs out, but to hopefully get a better representation of what you would have if you were here in church. For many years now, I've used PowerPoint and images and text so that not just auditory learners, but also visual learners could have a sense of what is going on at church. And so in our online streaming, we want that to be possible as well. Not just me as a talking head, but also the images, the text, so that we can absorb more during the process of the sermon. So we've been upping the quality on this. Also, since COVID has hit, we've had a variety of small groups over Zoom. When COVID first struck, I was concerned many of you might struggle to get on Zoom. Over time, many of you have, and so this September, Coffee Break will relaunch on Zoom until at some point we can get in person in rooms again. So Coffee Break will be on Zoom, and then soon after COVID hit, Elder Reggie Fair asked me if it would be possible to start a men's group online. A number of the men were a little frustrated that the women were having online meetings, and Reggie got a men's group going online, and that group has really gone well. Now, increasingly, we have others who are joining us online. For example, Janice, who moved away up to Oregon, and her sister have been meeting with the Coffee Break groups online. A couple of friends of mine from Australia that I've met via my other YouTube channel have been meeting with the men's group online. We think these are good things. And while we know that it would be nice to have COVID be gone, it may be the case that some of these groups will remain online or partially online. The council has just approved some plans to do a little bit of modification in the nursery building. And so we're going to wire that building for the internet so that our small groups can quite easily have an on-site component and an online component. And we're working on those plans now. Increasingly, we'll likely have more and more people outside of Sacramento who want to participate with small groups. And so we're thinking about that and trying to make plans so that the church can expand in that way too. So we want to encourage each other while we're living in this COVID blackout, and we want to get ready probably for the next phase, which will be a COVID brownout. We had the total lockdown from March and April and May, and then in June we had a little bit of a let up, but then in July we went from blackout to brownout, back to blackout, and it may be that we're in this for quite a few months yet to come, so we want to be ready for it. So we're trying to get ready with all of these different options to see what we can accomplish using Zoom and other online tools. Now, when COVID hit, we shut down Sunday school, which was a real blow to some of us, me in particular. I always loved teaching the Sunday school class. We've always had a good time in that class. And when we started up again in July, we had some ideas, or in June, we had some ideas, but then we shut down again in July. I didn't want to open and close that class. So one of the things that we're working on is how to do this online as well. And I'd like to have the same kind of back and forth that we've enjoyed in our Sunday school class. I've been recording the Sunday school class and sending it out on Facebook Live before COVID. And in fact, in terms of our videos, they were often some of the most the most requested and the videos that got the most attention. And so there's a lot of demand for the Sunday school class online. And I know others here at church, perhaps who are practicing for the service at 11, for one reason or another, couldn't make it into the Sunday school class. So we're hopefully in the near future, we haven't figured out exactly the time slots yet, we'll be able to reopen the Sunday school class. And those of you who are online, and potentially even people who are all over the world, could participate in the Sunday school class. So we're not quite ready to do that yet, so stay tuned for further announcements. Another thing I'd like to do, because in many ways Sunday morning gives us that Sunday school hour and then the worship service hour, and then we have small groups at other hours, I'd like also to be able to do a series context video about the sermon series. We just did a series on the Sermon on the Mount, and we're currently doing a series on the book of Exodus. Now, I've got a lot more to say usually about these things than perhaps some of you want to hear, but others apparently would like to hear. And part of what YouTube affords us is that we can put out more content and more teaching and more classes than we can necessarily fit into these little spaces. And so I'm hoping to increase the content on our channel, probably in a format like this, which is similar to what I do on my personal YouTube channel, so that we can have more background in the book of Exodus. Now, what this means is that if people come on Sunday morning, they'll hear a 20 to 30 minute sermon on wherever we're at in the book of Exodus. But if you're interested in further study, there'll be more videos that you can learn more and learn more things, get more content about it. I'm also toying with the idea of doing sermon question and answer, and I haven't really settled on how exactly we'll do that, but this is part of the reason that Rick and I and Roger are working on all of these things to try to figure out how these things can work over the internet. So coming up, maybe this week, maybe next week, I'd like to do an additional video, and I'll put it on the church channel with respect to probably the book of Exodus. Also online, as a video I released recently shows, is that we can do online giving. Many of you who are members of the church have been sending in checks to keep the church going. We appreciate that, because in many ways COVID threatens the viability of this church moving forward. And developing our online ministry is actually a key strategy for helping the church survive COVID and, in fact, flourish and grow beyond it. So there is in the new church website and on the new church app that I'll introduce in a moment, the opportunity to give online. Now, many have noted you can give via a debit card or a credit card or by putting in check information for the bank. There is a small fee associated with giving online, so if you scroll up on the page or the app, there's also a box where you can check so that you cover that. Otherwise, if you give $100, the service takes out, a dollar or two in order to pay for the transaction. So if you want that covered, scroll down a little bit. There's also an option on the app for recurring giving, where in fact you can decide that you'd like to give a certain amount of money each week or a certain amount of money each month, and that will be deposited into the church's bank account. Now, we're really encouraging people to set up online giving if this is something that you can do and you feel comfortable with, because it's very helpful for the deacons because they don't have to scan checks and copy checks and do a lot of administration. When your gift is given online, your name is recorded and your gift is put into the system, and at the end of the year the deacons can just press a few buttons and you can get an email with your tax receipt. So giving online is very helpful. Also, this is a new vendor for giving online, and this new vendor actually can take online gifts from all over the world. And so it's quite a bit superior to our old online giving vendor if you had ever tried to use that. Now, we also have a new church website, and the domain of the new church website is livingstonecrc.com. That is our old original domain. There's another domain, livingstonecrc.org, which I'm in the process of transferring. And there's another shorter domain, lscrc.org, which will also get you to the same website. You can go to the website and explore it. I'm continuing to develop it. A lot of things will flow through there. As I mentioned before, we're currently streaming to YouTube and Facebook. One of these Sundays, we're going to stop streaming to Facebook. The reason, well, apparently last Sunday I had a hat and glasses on. That was some sort of glitch in the system that was putting a filter on my face. But eventually we might even try it this coming Sunday, where you can go to the church website and be able to watch the live stream right from the church website. There will also be a chat in the church website, so you can chat, you can type in messages to the other members who are gathering there. This will be similar to what you have in Facebook. Part of the problem with the Facebook live stream is we don't really have it set up. I'm still using my little camera, so the picture in the YouTube and then in the church website stream will be quite a bit superior to what's in the Facebook stream. Also, you don't need to have a Facebook account or account of any kind just to go to the church website and find the live stream. So that's coming. We might be able to pull it off this Sunday. I hope so. I'd wanted to get a trial run on it last week. We didn't manage to, but the church website will be the place where you can find all of the information about the church. Eventually, there'll be calendars up there with events, links to get to your Zoom small group, all of those kinds of things. When we restart Sunday school will be live streamed from there too. So for those of you who mostly use your phone, we have a new church app. And to get that app, you would go to a website. You can type this into your phone or you can type it into your computer, tithely.app.link. I will send this link out to the church, and it'll be in the notes below this video. And if you put in that link, it'll pull up a website that asks you to put in your phone number. If you put in your phone number into that, it will text you a link to the phone. And if you have a smartphone, an Android phone, or an iPhone, it'll text you a link, and if you click on that link, it will pull up either the Google App Store or the Apple App Store, and you can install the church's app on your phone. You'll have to put in the name of the church, but if you follow the instructions, you can do that. If you have difficulty with that, let me know and I can probably walk you through the steps. Then you will get a home page in the app that looks something like this. Now, not all these icons are fully filled out yet, but you can get a sense of it. There's a sermons icon where you can watch sermons and videos from the church YouTube channel. Events, we will have calendar reminders for those events. The videos will have the whole list from the church's YouTube video feed. Give would mean that you can give via your phone. You can also text to give via your phone, and that's another way you can support the church. Blog would be that if the church has announcements to give, we can put that out on the blog. There's a news feed that incorporates all the different messages that come from the church that goes through the news feed. There's a Bible function to the church app. So there's a copy of the Bible there on your phone via that app. There are notes, sermon notes can be in there. There's a prayer wall where you can submit prayer requests to the church. And once they're approved, I'll have to get in the habit of checking those regularly. Once they're approved, then the prayer notifications will go out to everyone else who has the app. There's also a photo function where people can submit photos of things that are of interest to them for the church. And we'll continue to develop this as it goes. Also, you can watch the live events right from your phone. And that's a key thing. There will eventually be notifications that come down saying church is live, and you can click on that and you can go right to the live stream from the church. So the phone app, for those of you who are pretty tied to your smartphones and your apps, that will be a very easy way to access Living Stone's online content. And you can use it if you're exercising in a variety of these different ways. If you look at the app page, you'll notice that there's a wall first of icons, and this may change over time. We're just getting started. There's a wall of icons that I think are pretty clear about what they do. Down at the bottom, there's home, give, video, events, and then there's a little more icon. If you click on that, you'll get another list of things similar to the other, things similar to the home page, and you can find things there, including Sunday service. We might rename it live stream. And so Sunday service, Sunday school, once those things are being live streamed again, you can get to them from the phone. And then they will be recorded, and you can get to them at other times of the week if you want to re-listen to something. So this is really just the beginning, because we're trying to figure out a number of things. Can we have online groups for people struggling to find church? Church websites are already the main way that people look around for a church they might be interested in attending. And so to give people the opportunity to get a sense of what's going on at church is a real asset for people looking for other churches. If we develop a large enough online network of small groups, we'll probably have to raise up new small group leaders from our online community. And so we're thinking about that and thinking about the kinds of processes that would require. And we will see over time, will the online community sustain people's faith and people's need for fellowship? As I said before, we want to see just what can be accomplished using these internet tools. Now, some of you might have heard about Estuary. Estuary is different from Living Stones Online. Estuary is basically a new name for the meetup ministry and ministries like that we've been involved with. We've had a meetup of often young men and women that meet on Sunday nights or Tuesday nights. Estuary is an idea that I'm using on my personal channel to give people an idea of what it means for the church to bless the world. But those ministries are in some ways outside the walls of the church. In other words, most of you who are in church understand sort of how church works. Estuary is a little bit broader. And again, it's analogous to the meetups that we've been doing. It's a place for non-Christians to explore meaning, purpose, and have important conversations. And so Living Stone members are obviously always welcome in any Estuary type events. But if you see that on the website, you'll know that it's something distinct from Living Stones Online. It's a ministry of the church, and it's basically a way for the church to bless the world and to create other ministries in the world. That's what we've been doing through the meetups. Some of you know that Not only do we have our local Sacramento meetup, we've assisted meetups beginning in Christian Reformed churches in Alameda. We have a meetup group in Fresno. Before COVID, I facilitated helping a sister church in Tucson get a meetup going, and we had plans to go up the West Coast to help other CRC and non-CRC churches start meetups up and down the West Coast. That obviously got put on hold with COVID. But that's the nature of that estuary ministry. So when you hear that word, keep it sort of separate from Living Stones Online. Living Stones Online is church online to the degree that we can use that word for online ministry. Estuary is quite a bit broader, okay? And so if you see that word, don't be confused. Living Stones Online and estuary are two different things. It'll be less churchy than online. So there's a brief introduction to some of the new efforts. I'm going to send this out in an email to the Loop, and stay tuned for more information as we discover what exactly we can do with these new tools.